Nancy Pelosi, as Trump thinks her name is sometimes, meaning Nikki Haley, did an interview on CNN. And, Nikki Haley's really under my skin. She decided, after making some solid critiques of Trump during the Republican primary, to, like every other sad excuse for a Republican politician, lined up behind Trump, endorsed him, and spoke on his behalf at the Republican National Convention. We talked about that already, but now I want to look at this Jake Tapper interview. And to do that, let's start with Christie, her being asked about Christie, because Christie is one of the few Republicans who's not, this time around, lining up behind Trump. And she was brutally called out by Christie during the RNC on ABC. I'll show you that clip, then we'll look at the first clip from Nikki Haley responding to this, and then some others from that same interview.
As for Nikki Haley, I'd just say this. We have enormously challenging times in our country right now. And what we need are leaders who have the courage of their convictions. And what we saw in her speech tonight was neither courage nor convictions. It was really tortured ambition. And she was on that stage because she's tortured by her own ambition. She had to go up there if she wants to run again in 2028 in her own mind. And that was more important than her standing up for the things that she represented to the voters in the Republican primaries about Donald Trump being unfit, unhinged, just unqualified to be president of the United States. So I think when people who were supporting Nikki Haley in places like New Hampshire and Iowa look at this speech tonight, what they're going to look back on is not be persuaded by Nikki Haley to vote for someone. They're going to be ashamed they voted for her in the first place.
Right. And we watched that before, but I wanted to remind you of it. And with that being said, you have Nikki Haley then triggered by what Christie had to say about her. And then she levies an attack that is very bothersome.
After your speech at the Republican National Convention, former Governor Chris Christie said you only showed up because you want to run for president in 2028. He said that you were unified by your own tortured ambition. What's your response to that?
I think it's funny coming from a guy who didn't even play in Iowa and couldn't even get out of New Hampshire. I think he's bitter to anybody that he's ever dealt with, and I think it's comical that it's coming from a person who in 2016 literally did that one thing, fell all over himself for Trump to get a position in an administration, and he still didn't get it. So, look, I wish Chris well. I think he's got a lot of tortured demons inside of him, but I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and everything that he said could not be more wrong.
So what did she cite? Well, bringing up that he failed to coalesce a lot of support around himself in the Republican Party is meaningless. That's just a low blow, right? Because you're just making fun of him for not being as effective in running a campaign, apparently, or because of his sharper than she ever did criticism of Trump. There wasn't a place for him in the Republican primary and party. And that's irrelevant to the core of his criticism against you. But then she says he's bitter against everyone he's ever dealt with. I don't even know what that means. It's not true. He's had people that he's opposed to at times and still is able to not say they're a threat to democracy. That's because he identifies Trump correctly to be one. And then pretending like he's the one who's tortured by demons. But one of the things she says is that he fell all over himself to get a position in the Trump administration and didn't. Yes, Nikki Haley, that's the thing that he's now doing everything he can. We shouldn't forget it, but he's clearly trying to make up for that. The fact that he did, and he regrets this, I think, bolster Trump's candidacy, 2016 and 2020. He waited way too long. He was happy to stand right behind Trump, literally on stage, and support him, knowing how low character Trump was. And he should be judged for that. And you should be judged for doing it even longer. At least Christie's being honest now. At least Christie's having some courage now. So that is a fair critique of Christie. But whatever it means about him, it means even worse about you because you're still lining up behind Trump because of your ambition. There's no way you could have said the things Nikki Haley said about Trump in that campaign. Not qualified to be president. And also her top 3 issues: debt, the border, and standing strong against our adversaries. She said that he's horrible on all 3, and now is saying he's the better one on all 3. Doesn't make any sense. She talked about how much Trump loves authoritarians, now is saying he's the guy to go up against them. But is now willing to throw all that aside because she wants political relevance. Quick pause from your viewing of this video to request that you subscribe if you're not already to this channel. We've heard some people saying that they'll subscribe and then check back later and they're unsubscribed. That's not good. So if you could make sure that you are subscribed, even if you think that you are, I would greatly appreciate it. Back to the video. Here's more from this.
You were asked, do you think Donald Trump would follow the Constitution if you were elected to a second term? And you said, I don't know. Isn't that pretty damning?
I hope that he does. I hope that any president would follow the Constitution.
I hope that Trump follows the Constitution. I don't have to hope that Kamala Harris is going to follow the Constitution. I know she's going to follow the Constitution. Nikki Haley said in the campaign she didn't know if Trump would abide by the Constitution, and now is still not willing to say he absolutely would, because that would be a lie, and has to say, I hope. Let's roll the dice on our Constitution.
You were asked, do you think Donald Trump would follow the Constitution if you were elected to a second term? And you said, I don't know. Isn't that pretty damning?
I hope that he does. I hope that any president would follow the Constitution, and the American people need to demand that. We need to always fight for that. That is what's real. That's what keeps this country together. And so, yes, I hope that everything he does is in line with the Constitution. And I hope that Congress enforces that, and I hope that everybody he surrounds himself with enforces that. But I think the American people need to demand it.
Imagine that. Oh gosh, makes me so mad. Woo! I hope he follows the Constitution, but you know what makes it okay that I'm hoping that I'm rolling the dice on democracy and our Constitution? Is that I think the American people should demand that Trump follows the Constitution. Do you know, Nikki, how we demand? What's the power that we have? Calling up the White House? No, that's not going to do anything if Trump's going to torch the Constitution. Do you know how we advocate and fight for, to use her wording, through our political process? Our Constitution, how we make sure we only have leaders in positions of power who are absolutely going to uphold the Constitution. It's called voting, Nikki. And you're encouraging people to vote not in the interest of the Constitution, but antithetically to the Constitution. That's what you're advocating on behalf of. So don't give me this, we as Americans need to demand that the sitting president doesn't, call for the termination of the Constitution after trying to prevent a lawful, peaceful transition of power. The way we demand that our presidents do abide by the Constitution is voting against the ones who we know wouldn't. Here's more.
When you announced that you were going to vote for Donald Trump, you got a lot of pushback from Republicans who supported you. What do you say to them? What do you say to them when they say that they were with you, they agree that Donald Trump is bad for the Republican Party, bad for the country, and they thought that you agreed with them and they feel like you sold out?
I didn't get a lot of pushback from Republicans.
Yes, you did. Then you're not listening to your former supporters.
Republicans. What I will tell you is I have a great respect for those who stood with me. I am incredibly grateful. These were people who saw the fact that our border was out of control. They saw that debt was out of control and our kids are going to pay for it. They wanted national security that was going to keep America safe. They believed in mental competency tests. They believed in term limits. And they wanted Americans to have a choice for someone they could be proud of. That was what we fought for. That's what we did. And millions joined us. And so I wanted what they wanted. We were in it together, and I loved the fight that we had together.
And now, Jake, I just really want political relevance. I wanted that. I did. I wanted back then all those things I listed, but now, I mean, power. Hello.
together, and I loved the fight that we had together. But we've been given a choice. It's Trump or it's Harris. And so what I did was I said, this is who I will be voting for. I also said, I don't agree with Trump 100% of the time. And I don't expect them to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. But I wanted them to think about it through my eyes and how I thought about it. Since then, we've heard from a lot of people who appreciated.
All right, not super interested in that part of it. So it's a sad story of someone once again sacrificing their principles. And you remember how I said a while ago, right, when she announced she'd be voting for Trump, and then she encouraged her delegates to support him, and then spoke at the RNC. So not just, if I have to tell you I'm going to vote for Trump, but I feel gross about it. No, doing what she can to get him elected. That's part of the horrible nature to this. But what I said was, any goodwill or any place that she had carved out in, not that she would be this big part of history, but in the story of this moment, is completely gone. All she's going to be remembered for is this. Again, meaning totally insignificant. And the reason I said that is because I knew that that's where this was coming from for her, wanting more significance. And it feels like if you go against Trump, you just disappear in the Republican Party, because in many ways you do, because the Republican Party is so MAGA now. And so, putting it in terms that would resonate with her, I hope she understands that now she's just another rando Republican supporting Trump in the least courageous, saddest way possible. Just a sad, sad story. Okay? And irrelevance is what awaits this decision. Political insignificance, because there's a bunch of you, Nikki. There's so many people who have criticized Trump and now stand behind him like he's anything other than or like they don't understand, I should say, that he's truly unqualified to be president and dangerous to be in that office, something she previously understood. And so when she references, and that gets to this clip, when she references her respect, appreciation, and gratitude for millions of Americans in the Republican Party who rallied around her during the primary, she should know that she just spit on them. And they're just, so that's just wiped away. I think a lot of them, if they had known this is where she was going, wouldn't have supported her back then, as Christie indicated. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. Have you ever thought, I want to show the world that I watched the Luke Beasley show in a really subtle way, though, so it's not like weird, my face on a shirt, ugh, no. But show you're part of the community. You can do so. I haven't been plugging this, but I should, because many of you have been asking about it for some time. Merch, get some merch. I don't know if I have anything with a logo on it here, but we have a cool little logo, again, very subtle, and lukebeasleymerch.com is where you can go directly, or if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see the shop attached to the videos or on the homepage and get yourself some merch.